as a person, I'm a little nervous right now. But as a coach, I am feeling humbled to be able to tell you what I have to tell you today. You see, there is one thing, one decision, one choice, one change that I made it in my life that saved my life from what it was and the path that I was heading down to the one that I am on now. And that is gratitude. Yeah, that fluffy, warm and fuzzy, glitter filled thing that you might see all over social media. That's the thing that made a difference for me. But here's what I want to do with you today is make sure that you have a very clear vision of what gratitude is. That maybe it is warm and fuzzy, maybe it is glitter filled at times. However, it's a very serious matter also. It's easy to say that we're grateful and thankful and we appreciate this and that and the other thing, but meaning it in our core, investing in it, being intentional about it, those are completely different things. What you see in social media may not actually be gratitude. And so I encourage you to not be blinded or misled by what you see from other people, but rather look within yourself to understand what gratitude truly is and to consider embracing it as I did, to shift your life away from the things that bog you down, the sadness, the stress, the fatigue, the upset, the overwhelm, toward a lighter path of joy, love, confidence, excitement, self-esteem, pride, drive, grit. So in this episode, I'm going to tell a pretty personal story about myself and my switch to a life of gratitude, as well as 3 major ways that I incorporate gratitude in my daily practice in order to live a very intentional, gratitude-filled life. This is definitely an episode for the archives. Don't touch that dial. Let's go ahead and let's dive headfirst into this episode that changed my life and hopefully will give you the information and energy that you seek to change yours. It only seems fitting to start this episode with some gratitude, right? Thank you for being here. It is so awesome that you're here, to be honest. I'm Erica, and I am the host of the Incognito Athlete podcast, which started as a diary of sorts of my 100-pound weight loss journey, really transformed into something pretty awesome. I was out to seek change in my life, to live a happier and healthier life. And in doing so, I unlocked the mystery behind weight loss. It's all in our mindset. In learning these things, I felt it would be so selfish to keep this to myself. I want to share it with all of you to help you experience the mind-blowing changes that I have in my own life, where I admittedly feel like I've got it all. I want that for you too. So now as a wellness mindset coach, I am making it my mission to do just that. That way, you too can jump off that weight loss roller coaster and take a one-way ticket toward your own version of health and happiness. So let me actually go ahead and start this episode by asking you a question. What are you grateful for? Sometimes when I ask people this question, there's this big pregnant pause. Like they really have to think about it. I'm not sure if it's because it's something new that they've never considered before, or if they're trying to figure out what would be the best answer and what they think I want to hear, or perhaps they're in a state where there just maybe isn't a whole lot to be thankful for. I mean, life can be challenging, what with finances, raising children, maybe difficulties at work, conflicts with friends, spouses, family. So I ask you to take a second. What is it that you're grateful for, even just in this moment? It could be something simple like the coffee that you're drinking right now, or maybe the fact that you're at the end of your day and you're on your way home. I'm going to move on from this right now, but I encourage you to take some time today to really think about that question for yourself, because this was something that I was faced with several years ago, unexpectedly. As I said, life has its challenges, right? And sometimes those things like trying to hurry out the door or get the laundry done can really feel daunting. But then what happens when life really happens? For me, it was losing my job. In a single instant, I was unemployed. The shock of it alone was numbing for a while. And then once it finally set in, that's when the flood of questions came, even beyond those that were personal. I kept thinking to myself, now what? How will I pay my bills? What's going to happen with my living situation? I really wish I hadn't gone through the drive-thru for breakfast this morning. I mean, everything. Perhaps one of my greatest traits is that when something does go awry, I usually jump into action. It's like I instinctively know what has to happen first. And so, of course, I started troubleshooting. Okay, what's my game plan? I gotta get my resume together, gotta start looking for opportunities, start reaching out to people, my network. But even though I was so strong in my next steps, it was no match for the feelings that I was having. The absolutely heart crushing, terrifying reality that all of my adult responsibilities were at risk. All of the things that I had taken for granted to that point were at risk. My home, my car, my belongings, the food in my refrigerator. And then for someone like me who really thrives on others and is energized as an extrovert, I found myself completely alone. At the time, I didn't have a lot of friends and I was very far away from family. However, I did have one truly amazing lifeline in my life, and that's my now husband, Frank. I called him and he told me he would be over immediately after work that evening. I couldn't wait for him to come. I hated the silence of being alone. I did everything I could to fill it with action, right? He came, consoled me, was so supportive and wonderful. And honestly, I was a bit terrified of losing him as well. I felt ashamed of what had happened. But the man didn't leave my side. What's more, he wanted to take me out. Going anywhere was one of the last things I wanted to do that day. But he was so insistent that we go to the movies and that we get some dinner. So after a little bit of resistance, I obliged. I did everything I could to suck it up and have a stiff upper lip. But the coming of age movie that we ended up watching that evening just brought me to tears. I cried there silently as the movie played, thinking about my own life and where I was, having been through multiple abusive relationships and now found myself living in a tiny little house all by myself in rural Georgia. Like, what the heck? I cleaned myself up a little bit, and after the movie, Frank suggested that we go to a record store and, check out what they had there. I definitely didn't want to do this because I had no money to spend, so I'm wandering around looking at millions of things that I couldn't afford. It was almost like the wound was being deepened. He didn't know that, and I wasn't going to let him. But in a moment of overwhelm, I felt the tears coming again. So I quickly scurried to the restroom. As I stood there waiting for a stall to become available, I was met with a woman who stepped out of the stall. She saw me and she said, "Hi." And I'm like kind of taken aback because she even said anything to me. And she said, "Well, how are you?" I was speechless. And I said, "Do you really want to know?" And she looked at me. And she washed her hands. She dried her hands. And she turned and looked at me and said, "Yes, I do." And so I told her. I said, "Well, I lost my job today." And she looked at me with such sympathy in her eyes. And she just said, "I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" And I told her no. And she looked at me and she said, "It's going to be okay. It's always going to be okay." And she asked me, she said, "Would you like me to pray with you?" Now, me coming from the Northeast, this kind of situation is still something that I was getting used to in the South, where public prayer is a lot more acceptable. I didn't even think about it or bat an eye in that second. I said yes. It was like I knew I needed that connection, that human connection, that hope, that faith that everything was truly going to be okay, like this stranger was telling me. And so in that moment, on the day that I lost my job, an angel appeared in the restroom of a record store. And it was one of the most miraculous moments of my life. I felt such peace. I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt hope, and I felt faith. And as quickly as I encountered her, she was gone, but not without having left me feeling so much more of a whole person than I had just 5 minutes prior. It was truly the very next day that I realized that I was in for a long haul, but I wasn't alone. I had my own resolve and I had my faith to carry me through. It was at this time that I truly engaged some serious grit in my life. But before anything else, I found gratitude. I found a power, a force that is greater than any negative thing that could ever happen to us in life. And that's exactly how I started every single day when I woke up, unemployed and unsure of how I would ever be able to financially survive. It was also at this time I remembered a recommendation that one of my previous coaches had given me in order to really combat a lot of the negativity and self-doubt that I was dealing with. And it's called the 5-minute journal. I have talked about it before, but I think it's been a minute since I've mentioned it. There's no endorsement here other than to maybe look into it because it's a really amazing tool that I very hesitantly bought. It's the best $30 I ever spent at a time when I didn't have any money. And so there are 3 tips that I really want to share with you that I have taken from the 5-minute journal and just from my own experience that I really encourage you to adopt in your own life, or I mean, at the very least, just consider to get deep down into the core of who you are and really focus more on what is going well in your life as opposed to all of the things that are negative distractions. In finding gratitude for simple things, like I did at the time with the roof over my head, the food in the refrigerator, the people who were willing to help me and vouch for me, for Frank taking me to the movies, even though I didn't really even want to. These are the things that make our life rich. And these are the things that really speak to who we are, what's important to us, and what we want in life as well. So that's the really cool thing about gratitude too, is it's kind of like a compass and directs us in the way that we need to go and where we need to focus our attention. It's just that without that intention, we may not know what direction to go in. But with these 3 tips, you are much more likely to have a clear vision of what that path looks like. So, in line with the 5-minute journal, I encourage you every morning, yes, every single morning, to list at least 3 things for which you are grateful in that moment on that day. It's really great if you can vary them and step away from maybe some of the obvious or the repetitive things. It doesn't always have to be something physical or tangible. It could literally be that you had a good night's sleep. It could be that you got a great hug from your puppy this morning. Whatever it is that brings you joy, whatever it is that really has you feeling thankful. Now, from here, what I encourage you to do is number 2, show gratitude for those things in your day. So if in that day you're feeling grateful for your mom, maybe you had a great phone call with her the day prior, what can you do to reciprocate that gratitude and to show her that you're grateful? Maybe you are grateful for your boss. Can you write him or her an email and thank them for what they've done for you? Or maybe you're grateful for your home. And so in a way you could show gratitude for your home by maybe doing a little extra cleaning, but with less harumph and more happiness that you even have a beautiful master bathroom to clean. Tip number 3 is the bookend for your day. Reflect on your day. And again, I'm going to pull from the 5-minute journal. I love the way that they phrase it. What are some little miracles that happened in the day? I think so very often we go through our day and don't even realize the little miracles that happen. The friendly hello from a stranger, the kindness of a child, the warmth and attention of a pet. Maybe a stranger bought you a coffee in the drive-thru, or maybe you saw a rainbow today. Some of this stuff sounds really glitter-filled, right? But don't resist the glitter. This stuff is what life is made of. It's not made of the lists and the budgets and the task mastering. It's the stuff that makes us smile, that warms our soul and lights us up. So closing your day by actually reflecting and thinking on anything that maybe you were a little passive about in the moment, it allows you to expand your ability to be even more grateful beyond the things that were top of mind first thing in the morning. So now as I circle back to that initial question, what is it that you're grateful for? Do you have a different opinion? Do you have a different feeling? Have you thought of something different, maybe less tangible? As a way to offer you some ideas and insight, I'm going to share some of the things that I'm grateful for right now. I've got to say that I am insanely grateful for my home, something that I almost felt like I would never be able to achieve. And I'm so very grateful for my career and all of these other opportunities that are presenting themselves for me so that I can afford my home and the things that are in it. I also have a mad level of gratitude right now for freedom of expression. The fact that I'm sitting here in front of this microphone in my house and I am projecting my thoughts, opinions, and insights out into the stratosphere for all of you to hear is kind of amazing. Being able to help other people through my own experiences has been incredibly rewarding. And I feel like it's just the right thing to do, So I'm so thankful that I have the platform, that I have the ability, even just in the smallest of level, even if I'm only helping one person, that this time in front of the microphone is worth it. And so therefore, ultimately, I am grateful for you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for listening to my entire story. I know I talked a lot about myself this week, and I do so just to share a little bit more about myself so that you can be inspired and know that you are not alone. The things that you feel and experience do not seclude you from the rest of us. We're with you. I'm with you. We're all in this together. For something that is really kind of a sad story, I'm feeling pretty energized right now, and I sure hope that you are too. If you are really wanting that change in your life and you want to be able to own that level of gratitude and engage your grit to become that amazing individual that you can be, free of barriers holding you back, the things of fear, worry, low self-esteem, that's why I'm here. So visit me online at unmaskedwellness.com, or you can even just send me an email at erica@unmaskedwellness.com. I am here to do this because of you. So take all this glitter, take all this great energy, and funnel it into your day to make it the best day ever. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next week.